Hey, how's it going? This is Bryce. Welcome back to Chunk Style Remix. For our first video, I painted my first mini in over 22 years, and that was a little knight that came with the Army Painter Fanatic Starter Set. Today we're going to go over my first Warhammer 40k miniature painting, and also over 22 years. And not just one, but two. We're going to do a Space Marine, and we're going to do a Tyranid because we are utilizing one of the introductory starter sets. So come along and join me as we continue our journey as painting together as complete noobs who have no idea what we are doing. I hope you enjoy. All right, starting with this box with the shipping label they slapped across it that I couldn't get off for the life of me, so that's awesome. Not a bad haul. We got 16 Citadel miniatures, 5 Infernus Marines, 10 Termagants, and 1 Ripper Swarm. We also have a 48-page handbook, Citadel clippers, starter brush, and 5 paints, 6 dice, 1 range ruler, and 1 playing mat. Now, this right here, Push Fit. This had me a little worried when I first got this set because I wasn't sure what Push Fit was. The nearest I could figure were some introductory models that I had received 25 years ago that I actually had to look up to see if what they were when I was making this video, because that is what I thought of when I thought of Push Fit. They were essentially slightly smaller than regular models. They were only like 3 pieces, maybe 2 pieces. They were Space Marines that had a very static pose, and you just like the bolter and the hands were one piece, and you just clipped them onto the front. There may have been a power pack you clipped onto the back. So I was a little worried about this until I looked into it and found that there's actually a lot of models in the new 40k lines that have push fit, and they're way more intricate. They still look fantastic, so it kind of quelled my worries. And anyway, here we have the game playing mat and the 48-page handbook. You see there's a lot of reading material in here, a lot of art. Then they have some of the scenarios in order to get you started playing. They're very, very hyper simplified scenarios. Some of them start like this first one here are 3 Termagants versus 1 Infernus Marine. And it is just getting you the absolute basic of the basic idea of how to play it, almost to a point of disingenuousness. Because if you have no idea what the hobby entails and you go and you buy this and you learn this handbook inside and out, and then think you could just go to your local game store and just play like a match against a stranger, you're going to have a pretty rough time, to say the least. But, you know, it still gives you the general, you know, save rolls and rolling to hit and all that kind of stuff. It's very basic, and it'll at least get you started with somebody else who's hopefully just as green as you are, so that you won't feel too dumb like I would. Last time I played 40k, this was the relevant codex. So to say that this, I can't even begin to tell you how to play the new game as it is, but I had a feeling after reading through this that I didn't have much better of an idea at all. Now, full transparency, I bought this a few months ago and I already put together everything. So those are the sprues they came on. Over here is where they have the range ruler. We have the 6 2d6. And the Citadel paints. Just enough to give your guys a real basic look. And this Wraithbone, which, is that going to be all right? Got McRag Blue. base Nagaroth Knight, Balthazar Gold, and Abaddon Black. And I gotta say, like, these models, even after all these years, just really impress me. They look so nice. I love all the detail. I just love everything about them. These are push fit, so, you know, the poses are still, like, even the, if you look at the little sergeant here, even with the push fit model, it's still a really dynamic pose. It's really nice. There's a lot of detail. The only issue for me will be painting any of these guys while they are still in one piece. Got a little guy here. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, I got to find the one that my daughter loves the most. Yeah, there he is with a little tongue. So we have this Termagant with his flesh borer. We have one Infernus Marine. We are going to paint both of these. The first thing we got to do is clean up. It doesn't, now I noticed that in the book, it tells you a lot of things that you're supposed to do. It does not mention cleaning up the excess from the mold lines when you are clipping them off the sprues. And everything I've seen also says to use the back of a model knife. But I found that there were some parts that the back was just not really hacked in. I don't know if I just accidentally left way too much on because I'm, you know, so green at this. But I did find that I had to use the sharp side every now and then, and I just had to be real careful because it is so easy to take a massive gouge out of these guys if you're not careful. And I always wondered, you know, how do the painters that I follow on Instagram and the videos I see, how do they get it so smooth looking? Well, I felt a bit better that one, you can sand them with like little tiny model sanders, but also is that once you get it down smooth enough, the paint layers will cover it up and it'll still look smooth. So you're not going to give them perfect. Don't stress yourself out too much. It'll turn out fine. And we're going to use the Citadel starter brush. And I noticed right out of the way that it is seemingly quite a bit thicker than the starter brush we got with the Army Painter Fanatic kit. We're going to see how that goes. Looking at the painting guide that they have in the handbook, as you can see, it's really, really simplified. It is just, you know, blue, black, gold, and then you're pretty much done for these guys. And there's also no primer. It just tells you to do 3 coats, 3 base coats with the McCrag blue. And I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to use pure red because I want Blood Angels, because I like them. Now, to choose what kind of Blood Angel we want, we don't want just any Blood Angels. We are going to go with a different chapter, subchapter, the Flesh Terrors. Flesh Terrors. The Flesh Terrors are violence made manifest. To fight them in battle is to face a storm of whirling chain blades wielded by howling warriors bent on slaughter. The Flesh Terrors' bloodthirst has defined them, and few of the scions of Sanguinius are as afflicted by the flaw as they. Only the stern and effective leadership of their chapter master, Gabriel Seth, has thus far kept their fury from consuming them. Key! So essentially, we're just going to go back and forth. We're going to do a base coat, first base coat on one, then a base coat on the other, and just go back and forth as those base coats are drying. We're still reusing my little makeshift palette from my last video. And yeah, we're just going to get started here. I gotta say, going right for using the red as a base coat without a primer or anything and just slopping it on feels so um, foreign. It not just foreign. I said that before. It feels wrong. it, it doesn't feel right. Also, I found that there was some piece of the brush of the starter brush that was sticking out, like a random uh, hair of it that was going way too far out. It was screwing me up, and I could tell it was going to be a big pain later. So I snipped it using the cutters, and I will come to regret this because, whoops, I cut off way too much. Yep, trying to do it real nice and easy here. Getting that stray hair up. Oh, that was way too much. Oh boy, that's going to become a problem. I am doing my best to keep this first coat very thin, but it's difficult just trying to get that coverage, and I find I'm still fighting with how much pressure to apply my brush. A little too much, and I'm moving the model, even being gorilla, using the gorilla putty and attaching it to that medication bottle. It is really stuck on there, but I'm pushing too hard sometimes, and it's moving it, and I could see it screwing up if I was doing details. But if I don't push hard enough, I feel like I'm not getting any paint on the model. So just working and trying to find that middle ground is definitely something that's just going to take time and practice. But yeah, just something that I'm fighting with at the moment. All right, and that looks rough. And now for him. And his base coat will be the Wraithbone. And we're going to really shake this up because it looks like there's a lot of separation in this. And I also relearned why painting with red is so difficult and unforgiving. And also cleaning red out of the brush was, it's making me second guess my whole idea of going back and forth between the two. Why doesn't mine look like that? Oh. All right, so we had a little bit of a change tactic here where we are doing the second base coat. We are using the Army Painter starter brush for the Blood Angel, and we're using the Citadel starter brush for base coating the Tyranid, the Termagon. And this proves to be way, way easier. So there's the one. Wait, no, this is two. Yeah, this is two. And crap. Whoops. Now we're on two for the Tyranid. Honestly, this being the first time I did this, I kept a lot of the base coding in the video just to kind of show a realistic portrayal of how it went for me and how lengthy it was. This easily took longer than anything else. And next time, I probably will be showing a lot less of this. But, you know, this is the reality of how it tells you how to paint these in this first starter handbook. And this isn't even every coat. I think we have another coat each. And we got the bag. We got the power pack back on. And no problem. This won't be too big of a deal anyway, because I am going with the Flesh Terror pattern, which means black helmet, black pauldrons, and black power pack. So the next part is to do the Abaddon Black in the joints, and it says to do all of the details like the holster and all these little packs on their back. And yeah, we're just gonna go for it. We're just following this as is. Oh my God, that's so much. That is way too much. Oh, good Lord, don't use that much. Okay, and I watered it down a lot just to make sure. In fact, I find a little bit at first, I think I watered it down too much. I was really, really nervous during this because painting this black over and trying to get in between and not get any of the red and splatter it anywhere and just like getting all those little nooks and crannies was quite a task for me. Yeah, right here I thinned it way too much, and now it's not getting any coverage. At some point during this, I decide that, you know what, if I accidentally get some black where I don't want it to, then I'm just going to go over this and I'll touch it up with some red afterwards. And it definitely helped once I made peace with that. I was just being like, you know what, I'm going to do the best I can, then I'll just touch it up after. And then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to touch it up after. I'm just going to leave it as is, and that'll be that. And we'll come back later and we'll still just have this be our first go. But even though I ultimately decided that I was going to, you know, not worry about it so much, I actually found that I was more accurate and I was more confident. So, hey, you know, mind over matter. They said to put black all over this gun, and man, I just slopped a lot on there. But anytime I just did too much, I would just wipe off my brush on the paper towel, get it a lot more dry, and then just go over the same section again, kind of wicking off any extra paint and just repeating that, using some of the paint that I get on the one side and then swapping it to use it to cover the other side. And it's just this weird little dance that veteran painters know exactly how to do, and that the rest of us noobs and everything, we just gotta keep on practicing, keep on practicing. It's trial and error, folks. And I know it's easier said than done, but the trick is to just try not to get too stressed out about it. They're just models. You can paint over things. It's why keeping your paints thin is the way to go. because you could always paint over your mistakes. I mean, at the end, you could even strip them and just start again. Yes, my pretty. All right, so we just use some Nagaroth Knight and a little Abaddon Black. These guys have a really simple thing going on. Since we're already using the black before, we're just going to start with his little hooves, and then we're to do his nails, his claws. Again, just using really thin coats and then moving on to the next part and then going back and then just putting a little bit extra on there, just kind of layering it on in order to make it look more solid, but never just glopping it on. Did you find with these models, because they are push fit though, I really understand now all of those veteran painters painting each individual piece, not only because they are meticulous when it comes to detail, but some of these getting behind the Infernus Marine's gun, getting up under the armor, getting the underside of this Termagant is just a whole issue, and it is very difficult. Also, the black part of the flesh borer, I am not thrilled with how it turned out, but I know better for next time, so eh. Yeah, and I put his little claw on the one side. It was supposed to be on this side. I was misunderstood the picture because I am a smart boy. Easy does it. Didn't even put enough paint on the brush. Good enough, I guess. Even though I am doing the Flesh Terrors pattern on my Blood Angels, I don't have any Blood Angel decals or anything right now. Any of those little stamps, those little water adhesive ones, I don't even know how they work anymore. The last ones I used were from 2000, 2001, but I don't have any of that, and I am not ready to freehand a Flesh Terrors insignia um, on a shoulder pad on one of the pauldrons. So he's just going to go plain black on the pauldrons, and my headcanon will be that this was like a loser Flesh Terror, and none of them, he was very unpopular. The rest of the chapter didn't like him, so they just gave him a bunch of like no-name Flesh Terror gear, and it just kind of hand-me-downs of hand-me-downs that got really dinged up and scratched and faded, and they would just spray paint it, not even bother with the insignia, and they're just like, here you go, pal, deal with it. It has not escaped me that I perhaps should have painted this pack while it was detached, because I left it detached by accident, and then I attached it after the first couple of base coats, and now it's more difficult to get the details on the other side, but hey, it is what it is. I was really, really nervous here that I was going to put too much on the face and get rid of any of the detail because I'm not confident enough to do the eyes or anything right now. Doing a couple of coats of black paint on that helmet really, I was just, putting a little bit on and then just wicking away a lot, drying the paintbrush, wicking away some, moving it around, doing everything I could to just maintain as much detail as possible. All right, now we're on to the Nagaroth Knight for the carapace of this. So we're going to consult the Tyranid's Codex, kind of see what they got going on here. Oh, here we go. Ah, hey, cuties. All right, so yeah, they have that kind of fleshy color, that pink to their flesh. And yeah, okay, that's where we got to put all that. Uh-huh. Okay, time to depress ourselves. It's not lost on me that a lot of the angles for this, I'm holding it fairly low on the camera, and my apologies for that. I really kind of went for a masochist thing with this because not only are these the first 40k models I painted in decades, I decided to do it and insist on doing it while recording it using my phone on a camera arm. And I don't know why am I doing that? It makes it so much more difficult for myself. But you know what? Maybe it'll be like training with weights, or like Goku training, or like Vegeta in that that gravity chamber, where now when I paint without trying to record it and keep it in focus, I'm just going to be a pro. I'm just going to maintain those delusions. That'll make me feel better. Too thin. Yeah, okay. Definitely going in for a second coat. I just did one half and then went back and did the other side while the first half was drying, just to go back and do a second coat, because there's so much detail, so many ridges on these models that giving it one pass with too thick a coat is just going to lose a lot of the detail. But it is really transparent. There's so much coverage of that carapace. Going with two coats, I think, was the way to go. All right, and I got some on the tail. Son of a... Yeah, you know. And just a little more on his little crown. And I was thinking to myself, am I going to try to do the eyes on this guy? And then as I was doing this, I got a good look at the eyes again. And I thought, yeah, no, we're not doing that to ourselves. All right, I may have already forgot that I actually went for 3 coats on this guy. Holy. So this is a realistic thing as well, is that I did not paint all these guys in one sitting. This has been over several days because I got things to do. I have a family to take care of and everything. All of this happens over the span of several days, but just condensed so that you guys can see the beginning to end. Ah, yes, and then I forgot that the Flesh Terror's Aquila on their chest isn't all gold. It has black wings, and then the gold skull in the center. I had just cleaned off the paintbrush as well to prepare for the Balthazar Gold, and yep, that's just how it goes. Finally, the last little bit. Now, it's said to thin it quite a bit so that it went into all the recesses of the gun, like all the little, the vent ports and everything. But I found that it also just kept on filling and then creating a bubble across it. So then I would just have to go over it again with, after drying my brush off considerably, which would then start scraping away some of the paint. So it was kind of a, a little bit of a back and forth. All right. Easy does it. And I got some on his arm. Oh, well. Good enough. So I'm going with strong tone because I felt that the flesh, especially on the Termagant, was way too clean, way too white looking, and I don't have Nuln oil or anything. And I even had a friend suggest using Nuln oil to darken the red on Flesh Terrors if I don't have a Flesh Terrors red, but I don't have that. And I looked up online, hey, is Strong Tone by the Army Painter the same? And the internet said, no, it's not. And I said, okay, well, that's all I have. I'm using it anyway. So I put it all over this, and I thought that he had a lot of detail and a lot of little holes and divots in his carapace and in his flesh that it would look really cool and, darken him up, looking a little dirty. And I'm, I kind of regret it, but this is all about trial and error. It's about learning, and it seemed like a good idea. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Fortunately for my Blood Angel, I didn't go as heavy, and I think it didn't come across as kind of dirty looking as the Termagant, but it still was something where this was a total trial. This is just a Hail Mary pass. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. The internet was unanimous, and no, it's not the same as Nuln Oil or anything like that. It is very different, but that's what this whole thing is. That's why with these Infernus Marines and these Termagants is that each one I'm going to try things differently. I'm going to try base coating some with some spray base coat. I have white spray base coat. I have black spray base coat. I'm going to try a few different colors. I have some combinations. These guys from this starter set are all just about experimenting and practicing and just painting for the sake of painting, getting back in the game and working on my basic skills. I was even going to wait and paint the bases black to like cover up the parts that I missed or the parts that I got on the base of the red and all that kind of stuff. And in the end, I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'm being realistic. This is what they ended up looking at the very end, right after I was done that and the oil dried, the tone dried. As you could see, I think the Termagant, because of the strong tone, turned out really way too grimy. I wasn't the biggest fan of how it turned out that way, but you know what? Other than that, they still would be fine on a tabletop after cleaning up the bases and everything as well. But this was just the immediate damage afterwards. And a friend of mine also suggested that I start marking on the bottom of the bases of the models I'm doing the date so that I could see incrementally over time how much I'm improving. So I have the date for the little knight that I did from the army painter set, who's chilling back there with the brutalist. And now I have the date written on the bottom of these. And, you know, this, again, this is all just learning incrementally. This is the messy, kind of raw truth of how just starting painting looks like. And to that end, I am happy enough with it. All right, let's even this up a little bit now. Yeah, that's better. See, even then, it's better than having no paint at all, even though you still could do that if you want. But the knight could not leave his battle brother. Well, and there we have it. It went about as, I don't know, as well as I'd expect. I mean, I wasn't expecting great things. You're of course hoping for great things. I'm obviously wishing that I was immediately amazing at this, and the idea that I'm going to be incrementally better over time sounds like a nightmare, but that's just the way it is. And we just gotta stay on and keep on painting. This is our hobby, and this is what we do. And I do enjoy doing it, but keeping that motivation is definitely difficult. But that was a good time. Now, for the next video, we're going to be taking a foray into Battletech. The mech that we're going to be painting, not quite sure which one yet. Probably something like the Atlas, because that is the, you know, one of the poster children of Battletech universe. We shall see. But after that, we will be doing some more Warhammer, and I'd like to ask you what your opinion would be. Should we do another Tyranid or a couple of Tyranids? Or should we do a few more Blood Angels? We have a few different things to choose from. For the Blood Angels, we have some just regular Primaris Intercessors. We wouldn't be doing all of them. We'd just be doing one. Maybe we'd try base coating a couple and we'd see if we can do it. I'm not sure. Or we have a Brutalist Dreadnought. If you pick this, I kind of hate you, but would also be very exciting. When it comes to Tyranids, we have some Hormagaunts. We have Von Ryan's Leapers, which are just super cool models, I gotta say. Only reason I bought them is because they look super cool. We have some Gene Stealers, and we also have a Tyranid Prime, and for the Space Marines, we have a Captain in Gravis Armor. So if you let me know, should we go Tyranids for the next Warhammer video, or back to some Blood Angels, some Flesh Terrors? We'll see. Let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate hearing back from you. Thank you so much for the support on my first video, and I will see you next time for some Battletech. Take care.